We mistook self-abandonment for self-preservation. Let's talk about this. Let's really name this. You didn't disappear because you were weak. You didn't silence yourself because you didn't know better. You pulled back, you shut down, you toned down what you said, you swallowed words and delayed decisions, and you told yourself that I'm just protecting the peace. I'm just trying to be mature. I'm, taking the high road and making the smart choice. But deep down, it didn't feel peaceful. It felt heavy. It felt hollow. And that's because what you were actually doing was slowly stepping away from yourself, from your truth, from who you really are at the core. You were distancing yourself, trying to keep yourself safe. Here's the part that really no one likes to admit. Every time you chose not to speak, every time you chose comfort over truth, every time you chose being easy and not rocking the boat over being real, you paid for it internally. You started doubting yourself. You lost clarity. You stopped trusting your own instincts. Worst of all, you began confusing self-abandonment for self-preservation. Here's the truth that most people really don't want to hear, myself included. This is stuff that I had to work through on my own and come to a realization that self-preservation does not require you to disappear. If staying safe means shrinking, if staying calm means staying silent, if keeping the peace means betraying yourself, that is not preservation. That is self-abandonment wearing a respectable suit, trying to look the part and not actually being true. You weren't protecting yourself. You were avoiding discomfort. And trust me, I know, because I am one who avoids conflict like the plague. All I'm saying, and I'm saying this with compassion, not judgment, is because so many of us have learned this pattern early, we have incorporated into our lives and deeply held on to this belief. So the awareness that we need to come to grips with is that we've learned that being fully expressed, truly showing ourselves, came with consequences. It came with conflict. It came with rejection, withdrawal of love, told we were too much, told we were being too emotional. And so we adapted. We learned to read the room, learned when to stay quiet, learn how to survive, how to keep our sanity by walling ourselves off. And that skill, it worked for a while. But here's the reckoning. That survival mode is not a long-term home. What once kept you safe, what once kept you in this comfortable place, eventually kept you stuck. Because the longer you stayed quiet, the harder it became to remember what you actually wanted. You didn't lose your voice. You trained yourself not to use it. So let me say this clearly. There's nothing wrong with you. You weren't weak. You weren't broken. You weren't too much. You were resourceful. You did what you needed to do to get through a chapter that demanded adaptation. But here's the reframe that matters. Just because that strategy worked once and it kept you safe, it doesn't mean that it has to run your life for forever. Self-preservation isn't about disappearing. It's about staying with your truth, with your boundaries, with your voice, and even when it's uncomfortable. Real self-preservation sounds like, this doesn't work for me, or I need some time. I'm not available for that. And I trust myself. I wholly trust myself. And yes, this might shake things up. And it might make those around you feel uncomfortable because you're starting to speak up for yourself. But losing alignment with yourself costs more than losing approval ever will. So if this landed, let let this be the moment that you stop asking, how do I keep myself safe? And start asking, what would it look like to stop leaving myself, to stop pushing myself aside for everyone else's benefit? Because the safest place that you could ever stand is inside your truth, where your soul tells you this is the place where you need to be.